Hmm, Legolas. He's so dreamy. Hi everyone, CK Birch here. It's time for another episode of My Geek Review, and this is my geek review of The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Spoilers abound. So to give you a brief rundown, let's track what has come before. The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, which was the first installment of what was the Hobbit trilogy, which somehow turned from one movie into two movies into three movies. Upon which Bilbo Baggins began his journey after being tossed into the company of 13 dwarves to go and reclaim their mountain home from dragons, a dragon, a big dragon thing. Benedict Cumberbatch with wings. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, in which said company of dwarves, along with Bilbo Baggins, make it to the Undermountain Kingdom of Erebor, face off against the dragon, and roust him from his roost, only to set him free upon the townspeople of Lake Town. And this brings us to The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, in which said dragon goes on his rampage, and then we must face the aftermath of the destruction and the fact that there's kind of a lot of people who are coming to the mountain now hunting for gold and apparently strategic locations. So I may have just made that sound incredibly simplistic and maybe even a little bit silly, but the point of the Hobbit films has never been to reach the literature aspirations of the Lord of the Rings films. No, this has been to tell just an entertaining cinematic an entertaining cinematic journey. That's been the point of this. Peter Jackson wasn't even going to direct the films at first. Guillermo del Toro was, but scheduling prevented all of this from happening. Guillermo del Toro went and directed Pacific Rim, which was fantastic. Peter Jackson ended up directing the Hobbit trilogy, which has been good to great. It's had its moments of, where are we going? And it's had its moments of, like, please don't stop. Just, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. An Unexpected Journey, the first time I saw it, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a little repetitive. Something would happen, and then they have to run. They get into a jam, they get out of that jam. Something would happen, then they would run. They get into a jam, they get out of that jam. Something would happen, they get into a jam, they get some help and they get out of that. That was basically the formula employed by the first Hobbit film. Things happened and it was very repetitive, and if you go back and watch it, you'll notice it's very repetitive, but, you know, on the whole, after watching it a second time, and then a third, I really didn't mind that, because I really liked the visuals, and I really liked the action sequences, and I really liked the character performances, so it was good. Desolation of Smaug, I thought, what is, and not to get too far into spoiler territory for the review itself, the Desolation of Smaug is the best of the three. It's tight, focused, visceral, it's like an arrow that just flies towards its destination, and it really hits hard, especially in once they get into Erebor and they face off against Smaug himself. They did a great job with building up the dragon. No, stop, QuickTime. QuickTime, no. Sorry, QuickTime just popped up a window in front of me, and you're not going to see it, but you're going to see me looking at it. Men and their technology. Where was I going with it? Oh! So in the first film, they did a great job of building up the importance of the dragon. In the second film, they did a great job of having, of showing off just why everybody was so freaked out of their minds about the fact that this dragon was a thing. And now we start, literally, I think, probably like the first 20 minutes of the film is dealing with Smaug descending upon Lake Town, burning it, visceral, violence, destruction, and then the dragon is killed within the first 20 minutes. Now, honestly, this is not The Hobbit subtitle, The Battle of the Dragon. But to have Smaug dispatched within the first 20 minutes, you know, you know, you could have taken, okay, I'm gonna fix my hair. You could have taken that 20 minutes and you could have tacked it onto the desolation of Smaug, and then you would have had a you just would have had a complete film. You would have had a complete film. Now, so for me, to have this 20 minutes here at the beginning of the film, then have nothing to do with the rest of the movie, aside from the fact that the people of Lake Town are escaping and now need somewhere to go, just kind of baked my noodle a little bit. Now, overall, let me just get this out of the way. I might do a little bit of nitpicking, but overall, I was happy with the film. The Battle of the Five Armies is great. I won't go with great. I'll go with good. I really enjoyed it. Did I appreciate the fact that I saw it in the theaters? Absolutely. Did I appreciate the fact that it wrapped up this trilogy of Hobbit films very well? Yes, I absolutely do. Do I appreciate how it wrapped up everything within the whole Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films? Not entirely, but that is not where I'm at in the review yet. I just want it known. I did enjoy this movie. I like it. I like it as a conclusion to the Hobbit trilogy very much. As the conclusion to the Tolkien universe films, we'll get into that here in a minute. So, let me just say, even though having the first 20 minutes of this film not really actually belonging in this film, really bothering me, once we get through that and you accept that aspect, I really, truly enjoy the movie. I did have a hard time with the fact that most of our main characters are thoroughly unlikable for the beginning half of the film. Now, I say this because everybody's after the gold in the mountain, right? So Thorin Oakenshield is consumed with what's called dragon sickness, in which he's gone completely greedy. He's looking for the Arkenstone, which is his birthright for the king of the mountain, which we have established sent his grandfather into insanity because it made him greedy and not my precious, and very much along those lines. So Thorin is now now that he's here with his gold, he's very much consumed by the idea of protecting it and staying with it and not allowing anybody else to have it. Meanwhile, the people of Lake Town have showed up on his doorstep and they're like, you let loose a dragon that killed all of our people, and now you should give us some of the gold you said we could have, and we need it to rebuild our lives. And he's like, fuck you! Whoa! Oh my god! I know we're going through a character arc here, but holy shit, Thorin! God, I really didn't like Thorin for the first half of this movie. It made it hard for me to connect to him. Whereas in the first two films, there was a very definite, heroic storyline going. So for him to immediately start off the film, he's consumed with this. And, I mean, he does come out of it, and he does have a very heroic turnaround within this film. But for him to start off like that and be like that for, the first half of the movie really totally disconnected me from the character. In any way, shape, or form. Even though the other hobbits are just following his orders because he's their king and they trust him, they question him, but they still do what he says, and that really bothered me. The fact that Thranduil, the king of the elves, he comes to the mountain to basically start a war over the jewels that are in there, right? He's gonna go to battle over the jewels that are mixed in among this gold. And then Bard the Bowman, who's like, we don't need war. He's like, well, I guess I'll help you out, in order to try and prevent war. Everybody's so consumed with the greed aspect that makes them very unlikable. Everybody's willing to start some shit in order to make some money, get some money out from under the mountain. That really disconnected me from the characters. It made them very unlikable, and I didn't like that. I really didn't like that at all. And I understood that we needed to go. That this was the turn that it needed to make. Okay. And the character arc makes sense once you get down to the end of the film. And everybody becomes likable again. You want to root for the heroes again, but boy, it made it really difficult. That's on a personal note, mind you. From a storytelling aspect, this has worked before. Okay, my lo-fi camera is still working. I thought it was going nuts again. from a storytelling aspect, from a character aspect, this type of arc has worked very well before. But I personally have a very difficult time with any film that has the main character kind of start off as an asshole and then be an asshole for most of the film and then kind of redeem themselves by the end. I think Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise is an excellent example of this, in which Tom Cruise's character is insanely unlikable, a terrible dad, and a general jackhole in general. General jackhole in general. General jackhole. Um, but for the most part, he is an asshole in that film, and by the end of the movie, he's alright. But I didn't want to root for him in that movie in any way, shape, or form, and I didn't want to root for Thorin. And that might be the point, but to have the main character in the first two films, okay, not the main character, but he's the main dwarf guy, and he's got a sizable chip on his shoulder. He goes from being asshole to hero again. It just bothered me, and it kind of it made it hard for me to care about the characters. Having seen the film all the way through, were I to go back and watch the movie again, I would probably be able to have that connect, knowing that they turned it around. But in the first viewing, it just really disconnected me from everything. We had the first Hobbit and then the second Hobbit, they had the kind of a sub-story involving the return of Sauron to this world. And even though they wrap it up, it seemed kind of anticlimactic in a way. The way that they brought it about. Just the sequence of events involving the rescue of Gandalf, which, fuck me, it had one of the coolest combat sequences I've ever seen, in which you've got Saruman and Elrond and Galadriel doing battle with ghosts in one of the coolest possible sequences ever. And then we got a great scene returning the dark Galadriel, the one that you see in Fellowship of the Rings when she's tempted by the ring, where it turns all negative. She has the voice you will be now. So cool, so cool. There's a ton of moments in this movie that are really, really cool. And if I'm getting down on it at all, I think honestly my two main criticisms with this movie are the fact that, number one, the first 20 minutes of this film could have easily been tacked on to the end of the desolation of Smaug in order to have one complete experience there in that film. Because then you've got the dwarves go into Erebor, and then you have the dragon come out, and then you deal with the assault of the dragon on Lake Town, and then the aftermath of Lake Town. You could have easily taken this first 20 minutes, put it on the Desolation of Smaug, and then the cliffhanger of that one could have been like, Thorin is acting strange, and now he's obsessed, and then you could have cliffhangered that into the Battle of the Five Armies. And you could have had it where it's like, it's like you could have been more prepared. You could have, the audience themselves could have been more prepared to see this darker side of Thorin going into this movie. Instead, it kind of comes off as this very, it's very jarring. It's very jarring. And then my other main complaint would just be the fact that the main characters are unlikable for the first half of the film. The battle sequence is great, yes. I was a little distracted by Billy Connolly as Dane, all CGI. Couldn't they have gotten Billy Connolly to actually, dwarf out, or is he just too goddamn tall? I don't know. Dane's character being all CGI was very noticeable and very distracting for me. But in all honesty, the CGI was much better this time around. The action sequences were really well done. If anything, I think the focus kind of drifted a little bit during some of the action sequences, simply because of the fact that it was like, there's a lot of fighting, and then we're going to go over here, and we're going to have fighting, we're going to go over here, and we're going to have fighting. The best fighting sequences, I think, were the ones where it was the one-on-one battles. The whole fight between Thorin and Azog on the ice was excellent. The fight between Tauriel and Bolg, which then segued into Bolg versus Legolas. Legolas gets all the good moments, by the way. He does in every single fucking movie that he's in the Tolkien films. He gets the best moments, but that was really cool too. Overall, is this a good conclusion to the Hobbit trilogy? Yes, it is. Everything is wrapped up. It all concludes really well. The story arcs are finished, and I really truly enjoyed it as a conclusion. As a conclusion to the Tolkien films in general, the way that they built this up, hashtag one last time. Yeah, it was like it's like they're billing it as kind of almost like the second coming. It's like, oh, the big emotional closer. I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. If anything, I think that aspect of it for me, and making this a prequel, like it's unnecessarily billed as a prequel, considering the fact that the original story was written before Lord of the Rings. We have a generation of people who are getting to see this after the Lord of the Rings films were initially released. So this film is couched within the first film, Fellowship of the Ring. Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, opens up with the sequence where Bilbo is preparing for his 111th birthday party. The ending scene in this film, Battle of the Five Armies, ends with him going out and meeting Gandalf, who's arrived for said birthday party. So it's a bookshelf there. So it's like if you start Fellowship of the Rings, but then you stop, and then you've got this big old flashback, and then you come back, and then you got the Lord of the Rings. I think couching it like that was poor framing, personally, because it didn't really feel like a good segue for the conclusion of it, especially like the end of Bilbo's journey, that emotional moment when he returns home, is then what feels less like an actual ending to his story and more like a connection to the flashback that began in the first film. So, as a conclusion to this trilogy in and of itself, I think it worked very well. But then trying to make it more of that segue to the flashback, it didn't work very well for me. It didn't have that emotional oomph, if you will. So really, that's about it. Like, if you don't like the Tolkien films, you're not going to like this movie. That's about the end of it. If you are a fan of the Tolkien films, especially the Lord of the Rings films, especially the first two Hobbit films, you're going to go see this and you're going to enjoy it. There's big, epic action sequences. There's fantastic cinematography. There's amazing special effects. Aside from the personal issues I had, and again, just personal issues I had, this is in an ever-increasing sea of big-budget Hollywood stupidity films. This is welcome, it is refreshing, and there was more than a couple of moments where I actually felt honesty coming through the screen. The scene, and by the way, again, I already said spoilers, but I didn't, like, Philly and Killy both died, and then Thorin dies, and there was genuine honesty in those moments where I was like, wait, you killed them? Like, I read the book Once Upon a Time, but it's been a long time since I've read the book, so I didn't remember that aspect. So I was actually caught off guard. These are our main characters. 3 of our main characters are actually killed in this film, and I was taken aback. There was a moment where Tauriel, she has her ongoing romance with Killy throughout the movies. She's sad about the loss of Killy, and she looks up at Thranduil, and she says, like, why does it hurt so much? And he says, because it was real. Like, and this is like that moment, just very concise line. One of the things that I think that the Tolkien films and Peter Jackson has really done very well with the Tolkien films is that there are moments of genuine honesty littered throughout that you don't really feel prepared for. And I really appreciated that. Like, this film did have that, and I just realized that there's a scene in the trailer that I realized did not actually happen in the film. I just realized that. The scene in the trailer, go watch the trailer right now, where they're on the chariot, and the chariot comes swooping around the corner, and it's all icy and slick, and it goes boom off the side of a wall. That wasn't in the movie. I really don't want to get into extended editions again. Not, I don't. And here's the thing: is that Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers and Lord of the Rings: Return of the Kings are incomplete movies unless you watch the extended versions. They really are incomplete films, and that's one of the reasons why. Stop doing camera. That's one of the reasons why I actively I don't like those two movies, because they are incomplete without the extended editions. The stories don't actually make sense without making the additional scenes included in. So yeah. Oh well. Now I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to do some research now. Okay. Anyways, so Lord of the Rings. I mean, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I really truly enjoyed it. I think everyone was in fine form. The direction was excellent. The action was excellent. The acting was excellent. But for my money, that 20 minutes at the beginning should have been tacked on to the Desolation of Smaug's ending to create a more complete ending and a more complete film over there. It would have made Desolation of Smaug longer. It would have made that movie 3 hours. But then this one would have been only 2 hours. But then again, at the same time, both films would have been far more focused. And I didn't like that most of the main characters were unlikable for the most part in the first half of this film, because they're all willing to start killing each other simply because of money and jewels and greed. And I get that that's the point. Like, that's the point of the film, is that greed is bad. Wealth is good to have, but greed is bad. But it made the characters unlikable, and I personally, as a film goer, did not like that. So, all in all, a well-crafted film, a great conclusion to the Hobbit films, not necessarily a great conclusion to the Tolkien universe, not the big epic emotional finale that we were all expecting or been promised. But overall, did it make me happy? Did I truly enjoy it? Was I glad I saw it in the theaters? Yes. Will I be buying it on Blu-ray to complete my collection? Absolutely. And I won't just be doing it to complete the collection. I will be doing it because I want to buy it as a film and see it again myself. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been my geek review of The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. I managed to keep it pretty concise this time. I didn't go on for half an hour. I know I have a tendency to ramble, but like, comment, and subscribe. Please check out everything else that I'm doing with the channel. I'm trying to bring something, at least one new full My Geek review every week, maybe little things here or there. I really want to do a review of this book, Stephen King's Revival. I've never done a review of a book on camera before, but that is what I'm hoping will be my next episode, so we'll see. We'll get to it. I really only have limited time on weekends, so have yourself a Merry Christmas. Enjoy yourselves. Go see this film in the theaters because it is worth the cinematic experience. I did not see it in 3D. I really wanted to. I might make an opportunity. I might just go and do it. Anyways, enough of me rambling. 7 out of 10. Really enjoyed the film for the most part, and it is worth seeing. And I will be seeing it in theaters again. I think I'll have a much better time the second time, knowing where it's going versus how it was at first. So, anyways, thank you all again. We'll see you next time.